see sucker soup on a hot summer day. Coffee comes back in a nerve-wracking way. The dishes and laundry take the garbage out. What a day, what a day, what a day.
Well, welcome to Schenectady Today in and around the Capital Region. We're so happy you're joining us today. Got a great lineup today. Lots of good information coming on in today's show. So we hope you'll stick with us for the entire 1 hour that we're on. And we hope that you grab a cup of coffee, relax, and find out what's going on in our community and beyond, because we cover everything. We're going to be talking about the Schenectady Community Ministries and what they're doing for their summer meal program, which is phenomenal. Wait till you hear numbers. When you hear the numbers, you're going to be amazed. And then we're going to be talking with Richard Loveridge. He's a traveler. He's involved with the Alpha-1 antitrypsin medical issues. He's just come back from a big conference. We're going to talk about that and where he's been. But he's also a photographer, so there's some great photos that we'll be looking at as well. Then we're going over to Waterford to talk about the Waterford Museum and Cultural Center, finding out what they're doing. And they have an amazing lineup of activities, from porches to, you name it, hops and everything. So we'll be talking about those. And then if you're interested at all about money, who isn't? We're going to have Leo Quinn on. He's been on before, and a while back he wrote a book, how to what's the title? How to Own Your Own Paycheck. But he's also going to be talking about rejection. No, not emotional, but maybe it is emotional. We'll talk about that anyway. And then Richard Curry is with us to talk about Care Patrol. If you're looking about finding a place for a loved one to perhaps go to, maybe an assisted living or a nursing home, he'll talk about how to select your best one. And he'll help you even with that project. So in our breaks today, in the past we've had the Rotary on, and they have talked about these shelter boxes, which are amazing. Because there are so many disasters in our world, and even our own country, I thought we'd bring out that film that we had shown before on the shelter boxes. It's an amazing project, and if you want to get involved, you'll find out how you can get involved with that. But right now we're going to be talking with Reverend Grigsby, who is he's the director of the Schenectady Community Ministries. With him, he's brought Joanne Rafflick, and she is the director of the summer meal program and also volunteers, and you do it all, right? Whatever he doesn't do, she does.
You got it.
You got it. Okay, let's talk about, you come on every year to talk about what you do for our community, and part of it is the summer meal program. And first I said summer lunch, and Reverend Grigsby corrected me right away. No, summer meals, because we do breakfast too.
And lunch.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about what the project is, and maybe whoever wants.
Okay.
Well, the context is we now celebrate 25 years. And
Congratulations, a quarter century.
Yeah, well, congratulations to you on 21.
Yeah,
anyway,
21, yeah,
right.
We're going there.
That's right. It's hard to believe, because 25 years ago, we started a site in Central Park for summer meals, and that's when it was summer lunch. It was just lunch. And then
just one location.
One location, that was it. And then since it's just...
like Topsy, just kept growing.
Well, the good news, bad news, the need is there.
Yeah, I know. That is the bad.
Good news that we can respond. Bad news, the need is there. During the school year, thanks to our school system, although, again, this is a county program, so we operate in Collins Park as well, but all young people in the school system get breakfast and snack and lunch. And during the summer, hunger does not take a vacation, and so what do? You have to provide a summer meal program, and so we've been fortunate to be able to expand and also do mobile meals. So it's been an important ingredient in our community to fight hunger. Before we did it, we actually noticed a real spike in people coming to our food pantry.
Because you do have a food pantry as well, over on Albany Street, right?
On Albany Street, yeah. It used to be downtown, now it's in Albany Street. But because in the summertime, kids go to the refrigerator, and so what are you going to do? And so people come to our pantry. And so besides caring for making sure people have enough to eat, it's also a little bit self-defense, because the idea is to limit people would come with a pantry instead of getting a meal.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. How many sites do you have, Joanne?
So this year, we have 18 what we call fixed sites. So those are in different locations. They're in all of our city parks, and they're in some of our community
Like
churches
libraries?
and
You do the
congregations.
library?
We're outside of the main library,
The main library,
on
yeah.
Liberty Street. Yep. And then we have what Reverend Phil had mentioned. We have 11 mobile sites. So we have 3 trucks out this summer, and they stop in various locations, and some of them are the parks and different churches. And they open up the back of the truck, and we have big coolers and refrigerators, and we distribute food from the back of the truck.
Well, who makes the food? Do you guys make sandwiches in the morning?
Yeah, that's why we're so tired now. We've been up all night making sandwiches. No, actually, way back when we did, but we vendor it. We hire a local
So you have
vendor.
a vendor
We have a
who's
local-
registered and certified and
Yeah,
everything.
because of the scale of the program now, I mean, it's a partnership with us and the state and the federal government, although we do need local support because it doesn't pay all the bills. But it's because of the size of the program, we have to have a competitive bid, and we vendor the program. But we're glad that JR Proprietors, a local supplier, is able to meet the need.
Yeah, it's good to keep business local.
Local,
You know, really.
yeah.
I guess I would ask, let's start out with breakfast. What would a typical breakfast be, and are they at the same sites?
We do 5 mobile sites for breakfast.
Okay.
And typically it is a container of cereal, a container of milk, juice, and then we usually have some fruit or yogurt to add to it. And once again, the mobile sites
So
stop
it's a
in various
nutritious
locations. It's very is, yeah. Yep. We have yoga mats, and if we're not at a park where there's benches or tables, then each of the trucks has yoga mats. Now, it's not the best of circumstances, but the state certainly does encourage us, and we encourage the kids to sit and eat. But getting children to stay still is, of course, a little bit of a...
That's a challenge.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but we try.
They get excited.
They do. They get very excited. And they enjoy the cereals. There's different kinds of cereals every day. And so they stay at each site for about a half hour, 45 minutes, depending on what happens. And then we also encourage them to clean up, because that's certainly part of it. But one of the other
Well,
things...
it's responsibility.
It
Right,
certainly
right,
is. And
right.
we want to go back to the sites again next year.
Right,
So we want to
right.
make sure that we're keeping our sites as clean as possible.
And your volunteers got their hands full in handling the food.
We do. We have over...
So they're not going to hop out and start cleaning the...
Exactly. We do have about 8 to 10 staff that work with us every day, but we have about 1,200 volunteers that work with us
1,200?
just during the summer. So that's a lot of volunteers.
Yeah.
And the volunteers' job is...
They rotate.
They rotate. A lot of the churches, a lot of the service organizations, and individuals also, and different groups also come out to help us. And so besides just delivering lunch and making sure that the children are eating, they bring sidewalk chalk with them, they bring games
Oh,
with
so
them.
they've got the kids to keep them occupied.
And we also partner with the library, and especially this year, Friends of the Library helped us out
They're
quite a bit.
fantastic.
And so we bring bags of books to all of our sites, including our trucks.
Can the kids take them? Or?
They can take them.
They can. We
Yep.
have plenty of books.
We have
yeah.
plenty of books, and we encourage that also. And this year, the bookmobile is going to make surprise stops at some of
okay.
our sites
that's
also,
great.
because the kids love to see
Right.
the bookmobile. That's always
Okay,
a
now
fun
we've already
thing.
talked about breakfast. What would a typical lunch be like?
Well, today's lunch is a turkey sandwich.
And you didn't bring one here for me?
No, we didn't bring one.
I'm sorry.
We didn't even
I
think
know,
of
I
it.
like turkey.
The checks in the mail, Ann.
Okay, checks in the mail.
And everything is on whole wheat bread. So
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
it's always very fresh, and they're individually wrapped, so that's a nice thing. And then there's a piece of fresh fruit every day, and a thing of milk, a thing of juice, and then there's sometimes there's a cheese stick, sometimes there's yogurt, and then we
So
also...
you're getting protein.
You're getting
Yeah.
all the basics, and then we throw in a small bag of chips.
Yeah, well,
It's good, and the kids love it, and so the children don't have to, if they don't want to eat everything, we're not forcing children to eat.
Can they return it?
They can return. It's called the
Right.
share cooler,
Okay.
and every site has a share cooler. And then after everyone is fed, anything that's in the share cooler, kids will come up and take out of that. So some of our
So they can take a sandwich home if there happen to be
they
a
can't take it
sandwich.
home. Anything that is perishable, they have to eat.
Oh, they
on
have
the
to eat it on the
premise.
site.
Yeah, there's some limits on what they can take
so
home.
there
Take
are.
the apple home.
They can take and the
but-
chips they can take
Or
home,
the
but those
chips.
never
Right,
go home.
yeah,
Those
They never make it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kids are really good
Yeah.
about that. I was at one of the sites last week, and 2 of the bigger guys came around and said, "We're still hungry." And I said, "Well, we have more food for you." And they can
Yeah.
have seconds also.
Yeah, if meals are left, they can have seconds.
They can have
afterwards.
seconds.
They'll have to wait a certain amount.
Yeah, because you don't know
to
how
do
many
that.
are going to show up. You can guesstimate.
We guesstimate.
It's always a guess.
It's always a guess. But our numbers this year, 2 years ago, Schenectady School District started the enrichment program. Great summer program,
great program, yeah.
to keep the kids occupied and to keep their reading and math skills up. Great program. Our numbers dipped. We've done a lot more outreach. We've gone to different locations. We've increased our mobile sites. So this year alone, we've only been open 14 days so far, and we've served close to 19,000.
I was
lunches and
saying at the beginning of the
breakfasts.
show, you'll be amazed at numbers. By
Yeah.
the end of the season, how many will you have served?
Last
roughly?
year we did 53,000, so I'm guessing this year
Nice.
we're going to definitely hit probably around 60.
Close to 60.
60 at this
there
rate.
are 5 new sites,
Yeah.
which is one thing.
Which is so we definitely, so the children are definitely coming out.
Yeah.
We see a lot of grandparents coming
Bringing
to our
their
sites. We have a new program this year that we just started. We developed a handout, and
Yeah.
it just says help, and it's got various contacts. It's got the different agencies that are here in Schenectady. It has
Oh,
the
that's good.
211.
That's good.
And so it
The
has
211, of course,
the
is the
211
United
is
one.
the United Way. So it has different information that families might need. And it came out of the thought that we had a lot of grandparents coming to our sites and maybe a little bit hesitant about asking for help and not knowing what's out there in the community, and they were asking our site supervisors for information. So we thought this was a good conversation breaker, to be able to do that. We also have we have an internship program for younger people to work with us, and so they go out with a computer also, and we have a hotspot for them. And so if someone says, how do you get on the website for the school district, we can actually show them now.
Yeah.
And so besides giving lunch, which is so important, but I think we're encouraging people to keep coming back because we're sharing more information with them. And they do become very
it's not
comfortable.
just like we're handing you a meal. You're kind of giving the books to the kids. You're trying to engage everyone
Yes.
in
Right,
that program, whether they be the grandparents or the parents
Or
or,
the parents.
whoever
Well, the
coming.
grandparent is a real trend in our society.
Yeah.
I mean, for better or worse. And
Well,
so-
because the parents are working.
Well, parents are working, and sometimes parents aren't there.
Yeah.
There are lots of reasons for that, more than
Yeah.
the time we have today. But just the reality is, I think we want to stress that the takeaway from this is everyone is welcome,
Yeah.
and we're seeing more people coming. But we talk about people getting food in school, whatever, and the reality of things. But it's open to everyone, and so there's no sign in, there's no check in, there's no whatever. And the idea is to make it wrap around with activities so that people say,
It's just an activity center.
or it's an activity center. We're
Yeah.
coming for the meal, but the meal is kind of, it's over there, but it may be a book, it may be hands-on, it may be information, it may be whatever. And so we find there are lots of informal conversations that go on, which is another reason to have the volunteers there. Schenectady is somewhat unique in the state in that we engage so many volunteers. I mean, a lot of sites don't do it that way. You just might have a site coordinator, here's the lunch, go on your way.
Damn, yeah, but
But-
you're engaging them in
But the
more.
volunteer is really the heart and soul of things, where they provide. I mean, they may give out the food, but they're also just having all sorts of.
You're very
informal
fortunate to have the
interaction.
vol-
We have a very strong community where people want
very
to
strong
volunteer.
community.
Yeah.
We're talking with Reverend Phil Grigsby from the Schenectady Community Ministries and Joanne Rafflick, who is the director of the summer meal program, and also getting those volunteers out. And if you're listening, you might be listening on WOOC, and we're happy to be on the air with you at the Hudson Mohawk magazine. But right now, we're going to take a quick break, and this break is really interesting. We're going to be talking about the shelter boxes and what they do in disaster areas, and this is one of the initiatives, and the Rotary works with this. But I wanted you all to see this because I thought it was really good background on how they deal with disasters. This is a non-governmental organization, so stay tuned. Great.
Black serpent that will come from the sea and devour everything. That's what the tsunami felt like. The dirty black water came suddenly, destroying everything and carrying it all back out to the sea. I saw buildings collapse right in front of me. There were so many dead people in the streets. I thought everyone had been killed. I thought I was the only one left. I thought it was the end of the world. natural and man-made disasters impact millions of people in dozens of countries around the world.
When we had to leave the house, we were afraid and panicked. To have to leave your house in the middle of the night, it was very, very dangerous. We were just so confused and scared.
Floods, earthquakes, tropical storms.
And here we are back again, and with me I have Richard Loveridge. He is a photographer. He's a man about town. He travels. He's been to a convention with the Alpha One. What else do you do, Rich? I mean, should I even ask?
I'm the creative director of Proctor's Collaborative.
That's right, you
So
are.
You're in my house today, which is great.
I'm in your house
and
today.
We love having you here.
Good. You went to Dubrovnik, is that
Yes,
where?
to Croatia. I was invited to be the host, or more like the MC actually, of the Alpha One Antitrypsin Deficiency Global Conference. So
This is global, so this is not
global.
just a local thing.
Alpha One, the national conference, recently happened in Orlando. In fact, right on the heels. So, but every 2 years, every year we have a conference in America. Every 2 years we have a global conference.
Global conference.
It takes a lot to pull it together.
Now
This year
this-
we represented 40 different nations.
Now this is, I guess I hate to use the word orphan, but it
That's
is
fine.
It's an orphan
That's
disease,
great.
and
It
you know
is.
what? I have the
Alpha-1
zebra,
is-
and I forgot to bring it out.
You have to bring the zebra.
Yeah, he gave me this cute little zebra, and it has to do with orphans, and I meant to grab it.
Alpha One is the genetic cause for COPD, and it also has a lung function issue as well. In the NICU, Alpha One's a rare disorder. If you put all the rare disorders in the world together, more people die in America from all the rare diseases than from cancer
I know.
and AIDS put together.
Yeah.
So there's rare and then there's not so rare. Alpha 1 is really common in the NICU. In the NICU, it's the second leading cause for liver failure in newborn children.
But how quickly do they recognize that? I mean, is this
Very
a blood
quickly.
test that
In the
they do
NICU
now?
In the NICU, if a newborn is suffering from a liver issue, they immediately test for
Because a lot
Alpha
of
1.
babies are born with cirrhosis.
That's right. But Alpha 1's the second leading cause. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forget the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
in the NICU. And in the COPD, if you talk about commonality, in the COPD smaller haystack of humanity, Alpha 1 is also very, very important. It's 1 in 300 people that have COPD.
That's a pretty high.
And that's a pretty high number. So
yeah.
if you know anyone that has a breathing difficulty of any kind whatsoever, especially not responding to medication very well, no matter what race, color, creed, and that's where we'll get to the global conference, make sure they get tested. So I was very honored to be our
You were very fortunate to be.
MC,
yeah.
and it was amazing.
Shows how
to
much
be
of an
around.
activist you are.
Well, the world shrinks, right?
Yeah.
You meet people. I met people, at least 3, that are the only persons in their country that have been diagnosed for Alpha 1.
Is
So
that?
if you
I
want
mean,
to talk
is that
about
possible?
rare, of course it's possible because they're not testing for it.
Oh, because they're not being
looking
tested for it.
it.
Oh, okay.
Some
I was
countries.
going to say that seems unusual. If there's 1 in 300, and then you get only 1 in a country, it's bizarre.
Obviously, we haven't tested everybody in that country to find out.
And
right?
so they're experiencing difficulties, but not knowing why.
There are countries, South Africa, where they're actually discussing, the country is even discussing whether Alpha 1 is a disorder worth testing
Oh,
for.
yeah, and the earth is flat,
So
right?
the challenges, there are a lot of challenges out there.
Yeah.
And most of the stories are very common. Oh, I was tested for this and tested for that, and it took me 5 doctors, 8 years. Those are the numbers that we see to find out that I actually have what I have.
Well, the interesting thing is Richard and I were talking earlier a few months ago, and you were mentioning the 23andMe, and I'm not giving them a
Yeah.
big plug, but I will mention this because
Yeah.
I think it's an important piece of this. And when you did your 23andMe, it came up, it showed that you had the Alpha 1.
That's right. That's not how I
deficiency.
discovered that I had
No,
it,
but you
it
did-
reaffirmed it.
but it did
certainly.
show it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he said, you should do it. So I did it. And of course, the Alpha 1 is there, but
Yeah.
it was showed no detectable.
Right.
So I know now that that's not
Yeah.
an issue for me.
Yeah.
And then when you do the 23, they say bring it to your primary provider so that they're aware of what you might have.
They
And-
don't frighten you, by the way.
No, they don't.
Say you have this terrible
No,
disorder.
the fact that you have a detectable doesn't
Right.
mean you're going to get it. And the fact that it's not detectable doesn't mean you won't get it. So it's
Yeah.
you know, it's just tells you what your genes are talking about.
It's a great tool.
But let's talk about your trip to
Yeah.
Croatia, because that's an
How about the
amazing.
coincidence, right?
Yeah, let's talk.
The coincidence is that I'm a first-generation American, and both of my parents were born in what is now Croatia.
Okay.
So this is an opportunity that obviously I was not going to pass up in any case, but it was an opportunity to bring
Well, I
my
mean,
wife.
you got a convention there, and you've got your family there. Bam.
So we finished the convention, then we traveled up the coast, and
And what are we looking at there? Oh, wait. Well, they showed some pictures. Can we
Well,
back
right
up?
now- yeah,
Let's
sure.
back up.
Let's back up.
Yeah. So we can get right to the beginning of the photos.
So what
Was
are
that the
first
beginning?
photos? Nope.
Can we back up?
Couple more. Okay, so these are some of the participants in the conference. All these, 3 of the people here have Alpha 1. The person on the lower right is a local artist that I actually met in Kaftat.
Oh, no, you
the
love
town
artists.
nearby. I love photographing artists.
I know
so
you
there's
do.
my
You
whole
love
thing.
people.
There's a great Alpha 1 story, right? It's for people, I'm not the biggest joiner of things in the world, but when you go to a conference for your own disorder, you find these wonderful relationships that get started. And these 2 folks, she's from Europe, and she's an Alpha 1 athlete. So she's a
Okay.
person who was on her deathbed and met a young man, and he said, that's crazy. You used to love exercising. And she started to exercise. Now she recently
up there.
pulled a jet. She pulls jets. She lifts major weight. She's obviously, in short, not on her deathbed. So
Yeah.
this is 2 scenes from Dubrovnik. And if the scene on the left looks like Game of Thrones,
Yeah, it
it's
does.
because it is Game of Thrones.
Is that right?
So they do significant filming there.
Oh, I didn't know.
And you
that.
can meet the, then on the left there, that little lane leads up to the home of the maternal side of my family on the island of Olib in Croatia. My family arrived there. They were immigrants as well. They arrived on that island, both sides, 500 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And they've been there. And
Ever since.
that little house on the left is, you make a right, and we stayed in the house that my grandfather was born in.
Wonderful.
So it was a heavy
Yeah.
genetic journey.
Yeah.
Going back to Alpha 1 for a
And
second.
the meal, that was your.
Unbelievable. That meal was in Dubrovnik, but my cousin, a very distant cousin, was our chef
Oh.
on our stay in Olib, and he was an amazing cook.
Oh
all
my
local,
God. Yeah, okay.
local seafood. When we arrived, he said, those are some local aunts and cousins
Okay.
that I was told to look up, and guess what? They were right down the block.
Oh
which
my
is
gosh.
amazing.
Yeah, well, that's how it was when I went back to Italy. Yeah.
And when I met people, many of them said to me in broken English, they said, we've seen you on Facebook, and my family, lots of pulmo. So pulmonary disorders.
Oh, Palma. Okay.
So I found other alphas through the trip and other folks.
Now, did anyone else in your family have that? You
in
don't
my-
know.
In my direct family, my mother's brother died of a mysterious liver disorder in the 60s. So
yeah, so- and of
it's
course you don't know.
It's a mystery. Well, yeah, it's a.
I mean, you can surmise.
Yeah,
but
we
you
can
can't.
surmise. He was
Yeah.
far too young to die of cirrhosis.
Yeah,
so
yeah. That's an amazing. So, you felt that the conference was successful?
it was a very successful conference. It's about. I don't need to have my eyes opened about much when it comes to the alpha world, and yet they were opened yet again. And our new board president, Janine Darmiento, said to me in a random conversation, she said, well, you know that because the Alpha 1 Foundation is this big, powerful for its size, we punch way above our weight, and you think of Alpha 1 Global as this other thing. And she said to me, she said, well, you know, Richard, every alpha in America, we're just part of Alpha 1 Global. And that's a really important message that I brought back, that we are so much a part of what goes on in the rest of the world. Which gives me a tiny segue here to talk about August 18th here at Proctor's, where we will have our Immigrants Ball. And
I saw that. Isn't that an amazing
I mean,
thing?
you know
Yeah,
how many things I am involved
Yeah,
in
yeah.
or have been,
Yeah.
and how I'm most proud of our education program
Yeah.
and what Christiane does with all of her people. This is a way to bring those two things. No, I don't think anyone appreciates the American experience more than those who've just arrived here, right? And they know the value.
Absolutely,
And I'm first
absolutely.
generation American, and I
Yeah.
deeply appreciate.
Yeah.
So what do? You give back.
Yeah.
So the Immigrants Ball here is a way to meet and celebrate these immigrants and to be part of giving back to our education program, because again, our immigrants
It's
understand it so
amazing. And it's
deeply.
funny you say that because I never think of myself as being a first generation,
Yeah.
but my mother was born in Italy.
There you go.
So there I was. So I guess I am. My father was born here, but they came from villages that were like this far apart.
I played a little game in Orlando, having just gotten back from the conference, and I said to the room, this room is too small to play the game in, but I said, how many of you here was born in another country? 1 hand. How many here are first generation Americans? 4 hands. How many here really have a deep connection to their culture and celebrate it in some way? Almost
Yeah,
every
yeah,
hand.
yeah.
And one more question in, the entire room, their hands were up. So we are very much, especially in this time of sometimes confusion in America
Yeah,
about
yeah.
who we are and what it takes.
Yeah, yeah.
It is beautiful to understand that we are all one people.
Absolutely,
And it's the only
yeah.
way we're going to ever fix
Wherever,
the problems that we
yeah,
have.
exactly,
Is
exactly.
to deeply
I want to thank
connect
you.
with that.
Thank
I
you
wanna
for
thank
being
you.
here. Oh, it's always great to see you, Rich. Excuse us
Thank
while
you.
we hug a
We
little
hug.
bit here.
That's all. We're
Anyway,
huggers.
yes, and we're both huggers. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be checking out the shelter boxes again. But thanks so much for all you
Thank
do
you,
for
and
the
thank you
Alpha
for what
One
you do.
community. Yeah,
Thanks.
we're going to take a quick break. Oh, and by the way, excuse me, Katie, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that there will be an event, I believe, on August 28th at Price Right, and it is sponsored by the community ministries, Schenectady Community Ministries, and there'll be food and stuff, but it's a big event coming up, and I'll put that on my Facebook page
Sounds
as
great.
well. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good. Good. Great. Look.
Oh, yeah.
It was ruined. Our crops were ruined. Our furniture and appliances were all ruined. The only thing we had left was some clothing. It was very difficult for us at first. We had to move into the school and we were living in a classroom with other families. It is so very crowded there.
I arrived at the school with just my newborn baby and a few possessions I could carry with me. We had to share a classroom with 5 other people, and the conditions were
Well,
terrible.
I'm very pleased to have Anastasia.
Yes.
Anastasia. Well, I mean, it's pronounced 2 different ways, so I want to make sure I get it right. Garceau, and she is the director of the Waterford Historical Museum and Cultural Center. That's over in Waterford. And of course, they're by the river and everything, and you've got such a history. And activities are amazing. So let's first of all talk about what will I see at the Waterford Historical Museum and Cultural Center.
I know, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Blah, blah, blah.
Get it all
I
out
got
there.
it all out.
Yes, good job. Well, right now we have our summer exhibit, and that is A Place for Nature in Victorian Waterford. So it's a Victorian garden theme exhibit. So we have lots of flowers that are there. So we tell a little bit
Who
more.
takes care of that? You?
Yes, I do.
Oh, good.
Yep.
See?
Yep.
She's a hard worker.
I bring my brother in, so I got to keep him busy too. But he helps me with that to make sure that it's a nice space where it kind of looks a little bit like the original owner would have had with his flowers there, because we.
So you do a historical background as to what flowers
do.
would have been growing there.
Yep, you have an opportunity to shine some light on the original owner, which kind of gets overlooked sometimes because we're not in our original location. So
I heard you moved. You
We
moved your
did.
building, huh?
Yep, 1964, when they were setting it up as a museum, they moved it to where it is now today. So we lost a few rooms. We lost a nice big conservatory that would have had all those flowers. So it's a way to bring them back in. And who doesn't like to look at flowers?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you have so you have the garden. Do you have any historical documents and things that you?
We do. We have a lot in our collection, actually, and we have our O'Connor Research Library, which you can make an appointment, come on in and take a look at what resources we have. We do get a lot of genealogy requests, but we don't really have a whole lot
You don't
there.
have a whole lot on that,
Right.
yeah.
Our archive is a lot of, I look around, see what I can bring in, but it's mainly what people donate. So if your family donated something to the museum that had some particular family relevance to you, you're definitely welcome to come in and take a look, and I'll
Okay.
be there for you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So they can contact you on that.
Absolutely, I encourage
Let's
it.
talk about the events, because we have the flyers coming up, and I guess what we should do is look at each flyer as it comes up so we can talk about the right one at the right time. Okay, let's talk about this, okay? This is what you were just talking about.
Right, so this is our exhibit, and that'll run until the end of October. Our museum season, because we're a small museum, we kind of are only open for half the year. Doesn't mean we're not busy the other
Yeah.
half. We have plenty of programs going on, but we have our exhibit open and that is open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 3, and on Sundays, 12:30 to 3 p.m. And the admission fees that we do have do go directly to supporting all of our endeavors.
All of the activities. Okay, and the next one? Okay, and that's what it looks like probably
That's what it looks
inside.
like
yeah.
right now, with all our flowers in bloom.
Okay, next slide. Yeah, okay, now what is this? The porches? Is that what this says?
Yeah, so we're going to experiment and branch out with another program this year. This is the first year we're doing this. This is our Waterford Porch Crawl. So we're having a lot of local places, residences, some of them are town and village sites that people will go to kind of get a little bit of the history of the area, get a look at the architecture. We do have a wide range of architectural features that are throughout Waterford. It's a nice, quaint little area.
Okay,
And if
so you can include your porch.
and
Okay.
if you would like to do that, we would definitely be more than happy to have you be included.
And what is this? The
So-
be a crawler.
Yep. so
That's
if you
the
wanna-
porch crawl?
Yep. If you want to join in with us, you come to the museum, you register, you'll get a little bracelet, and then you can go to all the different locations and hear
Okay.
the history.
Cool. And what is the hops? I mean, there's a lot of hops being grown in this area.
Yes, yes, there is. In fact, there was a lot of hops growing in this area way back when, the 1800s, and we had so many breweries. If you look around Albany today, you still have plenty of
In
breweries.
Schenectady, I mean,
Yeah.
they're popping up all over.
Yeah.
Really.
The home brewers, lots of that around here too. So this program will be by Roger Savoy. He is going to talk
I know
about,
Roger
Yep,
very well.
Yep. He's a great guy. He does a lot of stuff with this, and he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he
so
does.
he'll be able to tell us a bit about the area and kind of give you a feel for the development, what's old is new again.
Yeah, and he does. He actually makes his own beer, and he has a little pub that he has there as well. But this event is not a beer associated, but it's talking about
No.
hops. And Sal, of course, that's my gal Sal, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this
my
is-
mule Sal. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this will be our third event for this, and this is a great fundraiser for us over at the Van Skyke Island Country Club, where we have a 9-hole program. We have lots of great prizes this year. We definitely had some nice surprises with what we have there for our guests who take part in
Now,
this.
were you part of the Erie Canal? No.
Well, technically, because the Champlain and the Erie were built simultaneously and all part of the same system, and that's how it is today as well. So people could get through to the Erie Canal from Waterford or get off, as the case may be.
But you do have the locks, though.
We do, and so this is lock 2. So this is the modern lock system, and it is, you can't quite see it in this photo, but just a little bit off to the right there by Unlocking History, our motto there. You would see the original Champlain Canal side cut locks from 1823 when it opened. So we have
okay.
the old right next to the new.
And what's this now? This is another event?
Yep, so this is our exhibit space to give you another look into what the museum is like.
Very nice.
We're in a historic house, but we're not a historic house museum. So this is a nice way to kind of give you a feel for
Sure.
what you're going to see, because we have a lot on the canals. Can't help but talk about them every time.
Absolutely.
But the people
And the
there
locks
as
and
well,
yeah.
because we have a lot of history in this area for the amount of time.
Amazing,
here. Yeah.
amazing history. Yeah. So you're in charge of all of this. Oh my goodness.
I am, and getting things like our little Waterford mule.
Oh, well, let's just take a peek at
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
it's got our logo on it. It's the closest we can get to
unlocking.
a mule for
I
you.
love your logo, Unlocking History, because that's what you are doing, is unlocking
Yes,
history.
we are.
Yes. And is this a place that you would bring your kids, or is this more adult oriented?
We do have a kids section. It is kind of small, but we're working on making sure that there is opportunities for visitors of all ages. So we do want to definitely welcome everyone that wants to come, but we do have a lot of focus on history that maybe an older crowd might have a little bit
And
more.
how much land do you have? I mean, is there an outside walking area? or anything?
We are connected. We don't own the land, but we are right next to the old Champlain Canal Trail, which is something that we have a lot of our boaters that come when they visit. They walk the trail,
Oh,
and
okay.
it goes right to the museum. So it's a great spot to walk. There's some fishing. It's a bike trail, so it's a nice way to include us in your day
It's an
out.
outing.
It is.
So do a staycation, right?
Absolutely. There's a
And-
lot to see in Waterford.
There's a lot to see in Waterford, and throughout our entire area. I know a lot of people can't wait to get to the Cape or can't wait to get to the Adirondacks or something. but you might be missing a lot of good stuff right in our area that you need to check out. And it's always when you go to many of these museums, and we have a lot of museums. Next week we'll be talking with the Saratoga Auto Museum. Whenever you go to those places, you end up doing an ooh and ah, because people come from other areas to see it, and it's right in our backyard, but we think we need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, my goal is to try and keep to the bare minimum I didn't know I had a museum here. I live down the street.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Oh, well, at least you came here now.
Yeah,
Glad to see
yeah. I didn't know it was there. Yeah, I mean, people do that all the time. So I want to encourage people to check out the Waterford Historical Museum and Cultural Center, and I got it all in this time.
Yes, you did.
Anyway, and if you happen to be listening to WOC, you're hearing this right now, and we've been talking with Anastasia Garceau, who is the director of the museum, and it's a great place to visit. And I know Roger Savoy will do a great job on that hops thing, because he knows everything there is to know about hops.
So definitely come to our programs, and don't forget that you can also be a part of them as well. We would always love to have more volunteers be a part of our community efforts, because every one of these programs really is a community effort.
Can they sign up?
Absolutely, we have.
And be a membership?
Mm-hmm. We have membership and all that on our website, so please check that out as well.
Yep, do it. Support these things. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about money, and maybe how you can make some, or how you can even put up with rejection. Stay tuned.
Tried to see if anything was left, but almost everything was gone. I was able to save my sewing machine.
We had no tent and no shelter, just a few blankets to sleep on and some garbage bags for shelter. We were all getting eaten by the mosquitoes, and I was worried the children would get sick. We had a farm with animals and healthy crops. Because of the flood, everything is lost. Because of the flood, we have nothing.
In the aftermath of destruction, chaos, and loss.
Paycheck again, and I guess the book is still in print. Who knows? So
you have the last one.
I do. I have the last one.
You could.
Anybody want
Put it on
eBay?
There you go.
No, it's okay. I'm just mentioning that because he's been so creative over the years, and he's done things like explored his grandfather's journal. He's done 23andMe. He's done money, and he's got a number on him, 544. I don't think that's your age.
No, it's not my IQ either.
Or your IQ. Whoa.
That would be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be a good one. Yeah.
No, I'm in the midst of what I call my Summer of 1,000 No's. I wanted to, there's a book, one of my favorite books is called Go for No. Yes is the destination, no is how you get there. And it's all about...
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Most people are afraid of hearing the word no, myself included. In my business life, I've bent over backwards not to hear the word no. And I decided that this summer I was going to really rip off the Band-Aid and pursue rejection instead of avoid it and see what would happen.
So we're on Match.com, is that
No,
it?
no, I'm not allowed to do that. Someone would say no to that. So I have to do it mostly business questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm being silly.
No, I know. I've been actually, when my first no in this Summer of 1,000 No's was I have a dent in the back of my car. I sent the pictures to an auto body shop. He called me, gave me an estimate. I said, would you be willing to barter? He didn't have a website. He didn't have any social media presence at all. I asked if I could
barter. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said no. I'm wanting to sell the business. It's not profitable anymore. So that was my first no. Since then,
but the fact is that you thought of a way to maybe make it a yes.
Right. I gave him I had a good pitch, I thought.
Yeah.
He didn't even own the domain name for his business, and it was available. So that was my first no. Since then, I've gotten 543 other no's. I still have 400 and some odd to go in my Summer of 1,000 No's, but it's really lessened the sting of hearing the word no. So now I'll go out and pursue it a little more. I have a lip on my driveway and getting into the garage, so it's now like a speed bump to get into my drive every time. So I saw some guys putting in a new driveway at an apartment complex, so I stopped and I said, hey, I had $10 on me. I said, could I buy half a bucket of this blacktop for $10? And he goes, let me check with my nephew. And so he rolls his steamroller back to his nephew, and he comes rolling back on his steamroller. And he says, just buy the guy some beer, and they'll give you a half a bucket. And I said, well, what kind? He goes, a 36-pack of Miller Lite and a 36-pack of Coors Light.
That was more than $10.
72 beers for 5 guys. So I think I was probably buying beer for the company picnic.
That's all right.
I decided to turn down his offer because I was in a hurry.
Oh, so you said no.
Yeah, I didn't have time for a beer run. But I counted that as a no because he didn't say yes to my proposition. So I never would have done something like that prior to this Summer of 1,000 No's. But since I have to get rejected so many times, I decided to give it a try.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But you know, when I said, would you like to come on the show, he didn't say no.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed that you had me on because you didn't say no to me coming on. So.
You wanted another no.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and we were talking with Rich about 23andMe. Did you did yours too?
I did. I was an early adopter of that, and I did it when you couldn't send in your sample from New York. So I had to drive to Vermont to send my sample because at that point they were giving health information.
Yeah, and you couldn't do that.
New York didn't want you to have. So the only thing and I didn't look at the health stuff. I don't want to know.
You should. It's really worth it.
Too late now.
Why?
I don't know.
It's on the internet.
I know.
Yes, sir. Come on. That's not a no.
Sorry.
Give it a yes.
I'm not going to do it. But I have more Neanderthal in my DNA than 99% of the population that's gotten tested by 23andMe.
Isn't that amazing?
It's all my deep set eyes. That's what I figure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Could be. Who
it's
knows?
an interesting talking point at parties.
Yeah, and the other thing you've been doing is, what is this?
This is my grandfather's journal from 1919. My grandfather was 21 years old.
Isn't he an interesting guy? I just love him.
My grandfather was 21 years old in 1919, and he kept a fairly detailed diary. Men call it a journal, of course, of what he did every single day, the weather of the day, the time he arose, the time he retired. And I was planning on just going through every day and seeing what he was doing. But then a friend said, well, you should try and reenact what he did. And so if I'm able, I will do that. So one day he bummed a cigarette off his boss and smoked. And I knew the building he did that in.
You don't even smoke.
I don't. So I had to buy a pack of Pall Malls. I still have one cigarette out of that pack of Pall Malls. So if anybody needs a Pall Mall, I got a pack for you.
But you were supposed to bum one. You weren't supposed to buy
I know,
one.
but I went to the building where he was in when this happened, and I knocked on the door, and it's actually now a church office. Yeah. And I called ahead of time. But I made a video that looked like I knocked on the door and asked if I could smoke inside, and they just shut the door on me. So that was a
Did
no.
they know what you were?
Yes,
they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was a member of the Knights of Columbus and went to meetings a lot and took a shower there a lot and played pool there a lot. So I went to the Knights of Columbus and said, hey, can I take a shower here?
And they looked at you like you had two heads.
They said, no, because we don't have any showers. We have a big sink. And so I wasn't going to get into the big sink. But it's been a fun little exercise.
Yeah.
Today, 100 years ago today, the entry is arose 7:15, fair and warm. Textile strikers had a dance in Convention Hall tonight. Very hot, so did not dance much. Some girls from Amsterdam there went walking with one and had a little fun. Retired.
Quote fun.
Retired 1:45 a.m. So it's his handwriting is meticulous. Everything's very easy to read. It's just a fun exercise. If you're lucky enough to have your relatives now, sit them down in front of a video camera and just ask them 100 questions. There's questions you can get online that you can ask Grandma and Grandpa. I think I can remember my grandfather's voice, but I'm not sure. He's been dead since 1989.
But it would have been nice to have that on video.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So this has kind of been a little bit of a journey for you, looking into that.
Yes, and I've actually been able to track down his primary girlfriend from 1919, lived in Ballston Spa. I've tracked down her nephew. He's 80 some odd years old. I've tracked down her great nephew, who I've talked to via email. So it's been fun to see a name and then go see how much I can find out about them. It's been an interesting experience.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Now I know one thing I love about his weekly mailings. If you're not on his weekly mailing list, you really should get on there. Is you have done. I mean, you are willing to explore anything. So. Sure. You have done things like Uber, or you have done things like, being a valet for car valet during races or whatever. You have explored like doing secret shopping. Yeah. So tell us about a little bit how you felt about doing those things.
Well, I've developed a big mailing list of the people that took my Get Out of Debt class and have bought my product online, and I just like exploring other ways to help them earn extra money. So, the big term nowadays is side hustle. And
Side hustle?
Side hustle. You never heard that term?
No,
Side
but
hustle,
isn't it really
No,
good?
it's getting out there and doing whatever you have to do.
Hustle, okay. It's like the dance.
Right. So I like to experiment with all these things and just report on them and tell them whether it's a
You
good
give
use
it a
of
try.
good time. Yeah. See if it's a good use of time for them or not. I don't stick with things very often because I don't have to. But it's fun to get out there and try new things. Like earlier this year, there's a company called Baller TV. Baller.tv, I think it'll get you there too, but ballertv.com also. And they hire people to go and videotape basketball tournaments. So they have a lot of basketball tournaments at RPI here locally in Skidmore. And they'll pay you $14 per game.
You didn't do it at Siena? Isn't that where you graduated from?
Yeah, I did, but they have them there too.
Okay, just checking.
Right. But they'll pay you $14 a game to just stand there with an iPad that they provide you and just follow the basketball game.
And they provide the iPad?
Yeah, you just show up and there's a coordinator there.
Okay.
And he has 3 or 4 iPads, and they've got the tripods, and you just film the game. It's just really back and forth. It's not a lot of big problem. But
and you get to watch the game.
You do 6 or 7 games. These are summer league type games, so there's nobody you've ever heard of probably. A lot of 6th, 7th grade basketball teams. But $14 a game, $7, 7 games that I did, I think, at RPI. And I reported to my list, hey, this is something worthwhile if you can find games in
the
your
thing
area.
that I like about what you do is that you explore these, and so if somebody wants to know, does that really work or is it a scam?
Right.
You could almost put up a website called Not a Scam, or whatever, to do that. And I know that you've explored a lot of things, and one of the things that you've done is you've actually made phone calls and videotaped your phone calls when you tried to get a reduction in price on something.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know it was. Well, hey, I got a history with you, buddy.
Yes, yeah, calling credit card companies and asking for a lower rate. I don't know if that's still feasible these days, but there's so much competition in credit cards out there.
You got both ends of the conversation.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the call they say it might be recorded by them.
Yeah.
And I record it. So.
Well, recorded by me too.
Yeah. Just to show people it's not scary, and nobody's going to hang up on you when you're calling one of your credit card companies. So give it a try. Ask for a lower rate.
Yeah.
It's going for a no.
Yeah.
Actually, when you're buying a car, you're buying some furniture. Ask, is that the best you can do?
Yeah.
And all they can say is no, but more often than not, they might say yes.
Yeah, and if you get a tear in the corner of your eye,
well, I'm not going to do that.
You're not going to do that.
No, that wouldn't work for me. Probably.
But it's what I really like is that you kind of put it's an old phrase, put your money where your mouth is. You really kind of say, well, let's see if this works. You hear about this and you say, well, let's see if it works. And then what's nice is he reports on it through his emails. Yeah. And every Sunday he does free books.
Amazon makes thousands of books every day free. So I just call it my Sunday book club, and I send out a list of usually self-help related books.
Yeah, but they're books that are very helpful.
You can download to your Kindle. Amazon
Kindle. So aren't we lucky to have Leo around to tell us all this good stuff from journaling, not diary, right? Journaling.
That's right.
Journaling and how to make money, and his nose, huh?
Summer of 1,000 No's.
Yeah, and he's got a website.
Adventuresinrejection.com. Adventuresinrejection.
And if you need a website, he can probably sell it to you too.
Well, we can find one for you.
Good. It
won't be pretty, but it'll be there.
Good. Thanks so much, Leo. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and keep on doing such fun things. And I will see you for breakfast. We're having breakfast at the track.
August 14th?
Yeah, the 14th. It's an annual thing that a group of us do, so it's always fun to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Care Patrol. It has nothing to do with dogs or anything. Stay tuned.
The Shelter Box.
Very soon, they started to bring the tents. When I saw them, I couldn't believe my eyes. And I said, this is an awesome help for us.
Packed with items to help a family get back on their feet. Every shelter box contains the supplies a family will need to be safe and secure. A platform from which they can begin to rebuild their shattered lives.
When it rained, there was no shelter. We would not be able to sleep.
And that's an amazing story about getting people into housing, well, tenting, I guess you'd say it, when there was absolutely nothing for them to have in a disaster. But we're not talking about disaster right now, but we're going to be talking about, well, it could be a disaster in some people's minds, having to move from your home to either an assisted living or let's let Rich tell us, where do people move to?
Well,
You're with Care Patrol.
Care Patrol,
Yeah.
and we help seniors and their families navigate through the healthcare system.
Okay.
And basically, when a senior's having an issue, we step in and try to be a resource to them. So it could be bringing in home care. But
Oh, so it could be like bringing, okay.
could
like,
be, but a lot of times they've already tried that option, and now we need to do something a little bit more proactive. So there are independent living, is assisted living communities, memory care, which is assisted living, but
For
more of a-
Alzheimer's, yeah.
Right, more of a secured area, or sometimes it is a skilled nursing. So we just try to help families figure out what the next best step is.
How do you find these places?
Well, when I started, I went to every single one, and you basically, you start with their Department of Health surveys, you interview the staff, right down to tasting the food, and you really get a
Oh,
good handle.
really?
Yeah.
You really are, you fine tune this.
Everything that goes on in that building I need to know about, because if I'm making a recommendation to a family, I really need to know that it's going to fit right from amenities, geographically, financially.
Geographic is the thing, because if the family wants to visit them, they have to,
Right,
yeah.
right. And then there's some times where family is not around. They are on their own, and that's really why they're looking for the help.
Oh, I see. So what you do, so you check them out. Now, what area do you cover?
Well, Care Patrol is a national company, so
Yeah, I
we're
know
in
it's
33
national,
states,
yeah.
but I'm from Warren County down to Greene, a little bit into Ulster also, and then
Okay.
east and west, so to the Massachusetts border, and I'm going to say...
So that's a lot of places you visited.
Yeah.
And you visit all of them, or just,
No.
do you just kind of figure out which ones to go visit?
Well, I know them all,
Okay.
and just try to be, you're in them so often, following up on residents that you have moved in.
So you really, it's a process.
Yes, it is. And the new director comes in, you want to meet with them, what's their philosophy, and make sure you're still on board with what's going on.
I see. Okay, so for instance, suppose I come to you and I say, well, my mother is really not doing well. I think she needs something, but I don't think she can live on her own. What do you do next?
I like to come out and visit. Sometimes it's with the family first, maybe it's with the kids first to get an idea of what's going on, because maybe there's a lot of things going on that mom is not aware of or is still blind to. So we usually meet with the family first, get a good idea, and then meet with the parent. And I want to get an idea what they're like, what makes them tick, what's going on, and have a conversation with them, because I want them to be as involved as possible with the
See,
decision.
that's the secret too,
Yeah.
is you really need to keep them involved. You don't
Yeah.
surprise them and say, Mom, we're going for a ride today,
No.
and drop them off.
Occasionally with a significant memory impairment.
Well,
but,
memory is
yeah.
different, yeah.
But you want them to be a part of it because it is their life, and you want to keep them as engaged and a quality of life, because sometimes I'll work with a veteran and we'll be talking to
Oh, I never thought about that, yeah.
a facility that really caters to veterans, a higher population of men. And we've got a veteran center in a different community, so that might really work for them.
And what do you charge the family for this?
It is a free service.
It's a free service,
Always
okay.
free. I wanted to make sure that that wasn't another thing that they had to worry about, another bill.
Okay.
I'm paid by the vendors themselves.
Yeah, okay.
So, if they're going to use their services and I brought them there, I'll save them a lot of legwork.
Yeah, I understand, yeah. So, so you work with the families to assess what the person needs. Maybe they don't need an assisted living. Maybe they just need a small apartment that
Sure.
where there's, I don't want to say confined, but an apartment where they check on you and give you
It
meals.
might
Is
be
that-
independent living.
Independent living.
Because that might be maintenance free with some meals, or maybe there's some aides on the side that we can contract with that might come in an hour a day.
Okay.
As opposed to an agency where you're going to be a 3-hour minimum or something like that.
I see, all right.
Also, we look at veterans benefits, both for a veteran or a surviving spouse. There are benefits out there you don't even know about that could help pay.
Oh, so that you kind of explore the finances as well.
Exactly. Sometimes there's a whole host of things you can tap into, long-term care insurance. Even some health plans have some limited home care
Yeah.
hours that they can pay for.
That they get. So what you have is the knowledge behind this, so that when the people sit down with you, you can say, have you considered this? Do you know about this?
Right.
So because sometimes I think like Medicare doesn't, or some don't pay for certain things.
Exactly.
So this is what you know about, and then do you look at their finances to see where they can?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to hit that right away, but I
No,
always
no,
say
no.
we've got to be truthful about what we have here. And then there's different communities which can offer the same thing, but maybe not with the chandelier, so the cost is much less. And then we can also do some negotiating too, because I know what certain communities have on inventory as far as apartments go, and it's the end of the month, and so there's always some.
So they want to fill them up there. Yeah.
There's always some give and take.
Yeah. How do we have enough? Not spaces. What I don't know. It's units. I guess I want to say. Do we have enough units in our area, our eastern area, for this? Because it seems as though this is a proliferating population.
It is the largest growing segment of our population, percentage-wise, is 85 and older, and 75% of those folks are going to need some level of care, particularly with memory care. So I'll say that the answer is no, because of the amount of buildings that are still going up in the area or being developed. So.
And then people pass on, so then that opens up another unit. Yeah.
But there's still, most of the buildings are at 90% or better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are they? That? Yeah.
So there is a need.
Which do you find is the most need right now?
Memory care. So with dementia and Alzheimer's, where it's progressed to the point where they're not safe to be on their own.
That's one of the issues. They put something on the stove and then forget that they've done it, and they've gone off to.
Or later in the day with sundowners, they might just decide it's 1950. I want to go back and see my mom, and just those little things like that just that's not safe.
Yeah, or they go outside, and every once in a while you'll see in the newspaper that we're searching for so and so, that he was last seen leaving the house at
and it only takes one incident. Everything can be going along fine, and then one puts them in harm's way.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with the families that are still raising their own family and still working.
It's that crunched generation that has the kids they're taking care of, plus they're taking care of the older people in their families.
So it puts a lot of strain on the whole dynamic.
It does. What caused you to get into this?
I handled medical malpractice litigation for 20 plus years, and I did long-term care for the last 5, and I was having these conversations with folks when I was trying to resolve the cases.
So you saw a need, yeah.
Saw firsthand, and after a couple of years it finally sunk in that this was going on, and there was a real need for it.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, because these are, I guess, careers that have developed.
Absolutely.
They weren't there maybe 15 years ago or something. It's kind of like now that the need has been created, that people are looking for help. They don't have the time to do the research. Like if I had to do that, it's like I don't even know where to start. Where do I start? Because there's so many of them. And
I get so many calls that say my mom needs a nursing home.
She may not need a nursing home.
Let's take a step back and let's look at the whole picture first.
Yeah, and money, of course, is a big issue, of course, because an assisted living is going to cost different than an independent living than it's going to cost a nursing home. So you want to keep that at the lowest level, at least, and work up if you have to.
Sure.
So I want to just tell people who's coming on the show next week, and then we'll continue with our conversation. Next week, we're going to be talking about Dance Crazy, which is a kids' dance program, but they're doing an Appraisers Roadshow, so we'll be talking about that. And of course, filmmaker Prince Bragg will be on, and he's just completed a film called Cradle and had a big opening just recently. We're going to have a life coach on talking about life coaching in 2020 and what you should be thinking about. And Family Day at the Museum of Innovation and Science is coming up. I will be talking about that. We'll be talking about the Saratoga Auto Museum and what they're coming up with their activities and events. And then Singles Outreach Services will be on, and they'll be talking about what they do to create activities for the singles community. Not a dating service, but just a nice activities. Getting back to Richard Curry, he is the senior, Care Patrol Senior Care Advisor.
Correct.
Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Bam. It was tough. So you've got, I see where there is such a need for kind of a consultant. I guess you're a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
People can call you at any time, and you have a website.
Yes.
Yeah, to go to, and I think we've had the website up on our screen there. And if you're interested in following up on this and finding out a little bit more about how you can get some advice and maybe have someone not physically, but hold your hand through the process. You know,
Sometimes we do that too.
We do that too. Rich will do it. Whatever it needs to get you feeling comfortable and going through this journey, he's willing to step up and join that journey with you as well. Thank you so much, Richard, for being on the show. You've been watching Schenectady Today in and around the Capital Region. We're always happy to have you here with us and joining us for all of our great shows and lineups. And I just want to mention that on August the 6th, we're going to be having Forever Young performing for us. So we do try and get a little bit of entertainment for you as well. Thank you again so much for watching Schenectady Today in and around the Capital Region. And I want to thank all our volunteers for helping us with the show. This is an all-volunteer show as well. And we'll be going into our 22nd year next in September.